Rain pounded against the windows of the United Earth Embassy in Geneva as Thomas Reed finished his night shift. The orange glow of the quantum barriers protecting Earth's major cities cast strange shadows across his desk, filled with stacks of interstellar trade agreements. At 42, he'd spent the last decade working his way up from junior diplomat to Earth's lead negotiator with the Galactic Alliance, though most alien species still treated humans like children playing at politics. The holographic display on his desk flickered to life unexpectedly, projecting the image of a being he'd only seen in official broadcasts. High Counselor Xyrix of the Astral Dominion, one of the most powerful entities in known space. Her form shifted like liquid starlight, and when she spoke, her voice resonated with harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. Thomas Reed of Earth. Your presence is required immediately before the Eternal Court. He straightened in his chair, mind racing through diplomatic protocols. The Astral Dominion rarely dealt directly with Earth, preferring to let lesser powers handle what they called emerging species. High Counselor, this is unexpected. May I ask the nature of this summons? The Sovereign Empress is dead. The words fell like stones in still water. And her final declaration names you as heir to the Dominion. Thomas nearly knocked over his coffee. There must be some mistake. I've never even dash. There is no mistake. Xyrix's form shimmered with what might have been amusement. The Empress spent her final years studying humanity in secret. She saw something in your diplomatic work that resonated with her vision for the future. You have 1 hour to prepare for transport. Before he could protest further, 4 figures materialized in his office. The sovereign princesses of the Astral Dominion, each one a being of terrifying power and beauty. Princess Rhea's skin rippled with nebulae patterns, Princess Korra's eyes held the light of dying stars, Princess Mira seemed to exist partially in another dimension, and Princess Lyra's midnight hair contained actual constellations. So this is what our mother chose. Rhea's voice dripped with disdain. A creature whose species barely understands quantum mechanics. A diplomatic clerk, Mira added, her form flickering between states of matter. How quaint. Thomas rose slowly, keeping his voice steady. Your Highnesses. I understand this situation is irregular dash. Irregular? Korra laughed, the sound like crystals shattering. It's unprecedented. No outsider has ever ruled the Dominion, let alone a primitive. Yet here we are, Lyra spoke for the first time, studying Thomas with ancient eyes. Unless we wish to challenge our mother's final decree and risk civil war among the houses. The trials, Rhea declared suddenly. Let him face the ancient tests. When he fails, our rejection of mother's choice will be justified. Thomas recognized the trap but saw no way around it. And if I succeed? Then perhaps, Lyra said softly, we discover why our mother chose you after all. As the princesses disappeared in swirls of starlight, a small data crystal materialized on Thomas's desk. It contained a single message: they underestimate the power of humanity's adaptability. Use that arrogance against them. Trust in the strength I saw in you. It was signed simply, the Empress. Thomas looked out at the rain-streaked city one last time. Tomorrow he would either begin proving humanity's worth to the galaxy, or die in the attempt. Either way, nothing would ever be the same. The chamber of trials stretched endlessly in all directions, its boundaries lost in a sea of swirling cosmic energies. Thomas stood on what appeared to be solid ground, though each step sent ripples through reality itself. Before him, the 4 princesses hovered like constellations given form. The first trial is simple, Princess Rhea announced, her nebulae skin pulsing with barely contained satisfaction. Navigate the maze of quantum possibilities. Reach the center, claim the stellar crown, and return. You have 1 planetary rotation. Simple indeed, Thomas muttered, watching as reality fractured around him into countless intersecting pathways. Each path seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, some leading up, some down, others in directions his human mind couldn't quite comprehend. Most candidates can see the correct path instantly, Cora noted with a smirk. But then, most candidates aren't limited by primitive neural architecture. Thomas took a deep breath, remembering his diplomatic training. Every species had their own way of seeing the universe. The astral dominion saw reality as malleable, quantum states to be manipulated at will. But humans had learned to adapt, to find patterns where others saw chaos. He stepped onto the first pathway. Immediately, reality splintered around him into 1,000 possible futures. He saw himself falling endlessly, being torn apart by quantum fluctuations, reaching dead ends in dimensions that shouldn't exist. But he also saw something the princesses didn't expect him to notice, traces of other candidates who had attempted this trial before. Fascinating, Princess Lyra murmured, watching him study the paths. He's actually trying to analyze it. Hour after hour, Thomas worked his way through the maze, not by seeing the correct path, but by recognizing patterns in the quantum chaos. Where others would have tried to force their way through with raw power, he observed, adapted, and found the paths of least resistance. Each step was carefully chosen, each decision based on accumulated understanding rather than innate ability. Impossible, Mira whispered as he neared the center. He's using his limitations as a guidance system. At the heart of the maze, the stellar crown floated in a nexus of pure energy. As Thomas reached for it, Princess Rhea's voice rang out. Even if you somehow grasp it, you'll never make it back in time. The paths have already shifted. Thomas smiled, finally understanding the true nature of the trial. They haven't shifted. They were never fixed in the first place. The maze isn't about finding the right path, it's about accepting that all paths exist simultaneously. He stepped forward, not trying to choose a single route back, but accepting all possibilities at once. For a moment, he existed everywhere and nowhere, his human consciousness stretched to its limits as he held on to his sense of self through sheer determination. Then he was standing before the princesses, the stellar crown in his hands, with several hours of his allotted time remaining. How? Rhea demanded. No being has ever solved it that way. That's exactly why your mother chose him, Lyra said softly. He didn't try to overpower the quantum nature of the maze. He embraced it, using his human ability to find patterns and adapt. Cora and Mira exchanged troubled looks, their certainty visibly shaken. But before anyone could speak further, alarms began blaring throughout the Dominion's capital. Warning symbols appeared in the air around them. The houses of darkness, Mira hissed. They're attacking. They must have been waiting for Mother's death. Thomas watched as chaos erupted around them, already analyzing patterns and forming plans. The second trial, it seemed, would begin sooner than anyone expected. The capital of the Astral Dominion transformed into a battlefield as ships made of living darkness tore through the quantum barriers. The Houses of Darkness, ancient rivals who believed in power through destruction, had launched their assault with devastating precision. To the Celestial Sanctuary. Rhea commanded, her nebulae skin flaring with combat energies. We must protect the core of creation. Wait, Thomas called out, studying the attack patterns. This isn't just an assault, it's a trap. Look at their formation. Princess Lyra paused, her constellation-filled hair shifting as she observed. The attack patterns, they're herding us toward the sanctuary. Precisely, Thomas nodded. They're expecting us to follow traditional protocol. To do exactly what any rational astral being would do. And what do you suggest instead, human? Mira asked, her dimensional shifting accelerating with stress. Thomas smiled grimly. Something irrational. Something human. They've studied your tactics for millennia, but they've never faced Earth's chaos theory in action. Before he could elaborate, a figure of pure darkness materialized in the chamber. Lord Void, leader of the Houses of Darkness, his form absorbing all light and hope around him. How delightful. The rumors were true, the Empress really did choose a primitive as her heir. This will be even easier than we planned. Careful, Thomas said calmly. Your arrogance is showing. A common weakness among ancient species, I've noticed. Lord Void laughed, the sound like dying stars. Brave words from a creature whose species still thinks linear time is fixed. Sisters, reject this pathetic choice and join us. The Houses of Darkness will restore proper order to the Dominion. Thomas watched the princess's reactions carefully. Rhea's fury was obvious, Cora's calculation clear, Myra's uncertainty visible in her fluctuating form. But it was Lyra's subtle shift toward him that confirmed his suspicions. The Empress chose him for a reason, Lyra said quietly. And I begin to see why. He solved the quantum maze in a way none of us would have conceived. By stumbling through it like a blind quantum particle. Lord Void sneered. No, Thomas stepped forward. By accepting that sometimes the most direct path isn't the most effective one. Something your houses have never understood. He turned to the princesses. Your mother didn't choose me because humans are powerful. She chose me because we're adaptable. We see patterns others miss precisely because we have to work harder to see them at all. As if to prove his point, he pulled out the stellar crown from the first trial and threw it directly at Lord Void. The ancient being caught it reflexively, and screamed as the crown's quantum energies interfaced with his dark matter form. Now! Thomas shouted. The crown's quantum signature, use it to disrupt their dimensional anchors. The princesses moved as one, their combined powers augmented by the crown's unexpected position. Reality itself buckled as the Houses of Darkness found their carefully laid plans shattered by an entirely unpredictable human variable. Fall back. Lord Void roared, his form destabilizing. This isn't over, human. The Houses of Darkness will not be denied by a primitive accident of evolution. As the dark ships retreated through fracturing dimensional gates, Rhea turned to Thomas with new respect in her cosmic eyes. You used their own expectations against them. Made them think we would follow traditional responses, then turned their trap into our advantage. Humanity's greatest strength, Thomas explained, isn't our technology or our understanding of cosmic principles. It's our ability to innovate, to find new approaches when the old ones fail. Perhaps, Cora admitted reluctantly, our mother's choice wasn't as incomprehensible as we thought. Don't celebrate yet, Mira warned, her form finally stabilizing. The Houses of Darkness will return, stronger and better prepared. Good, Thomas said, surprising them all. Because next time, we'll be ready too. And they still won't expect what a human and 4 astral princesses can do when they work together. Lyra studied him thoughtfully, starlight dancing in her eyes. You're suggesting an alliance? Between your human chaos and our cosmic power? I'm suggesting, Thomas smiled, that this is exactly what your mother foresaw. Not me ruling the Dominion, but helping it evolve. Combining the best of both our species. As emergency crews began repairing the quantum barriers, Thomas caught a glimpse of something in the princess's expressions he hadn't seen before, hope. Deep within the Astral Dominion's archive of infinite knowledge, Thomas and the 4 princesses gathered around a table made of condensed starlight. Holograms of the Houses of Darkness attack patterns floated above them, each movement analyzed and dissected. Their retreat was too easy, Rhea mused, her nebulae skin dimmed in concentration. Lord Void isn't known for abandoning advantages. Agreed, Thomas nodded, manipulating the hologram with practiced ease after days of learning astral technology. He wanted us to win that skirmish. Question is, why? Princess Lyra moved closer, her constellation-filled hair briefly mingling with the hologram's light. Look at these energy signatures. During the battle, they were scanning something. The stellar crown, Cora realized suddenly. When you threw it at Lord Void, that wasn't just a tactical move, it was exactly what they wanted. Thomas smiled grimly. They needed to analyze its quantum signature. But knowing that doesn't tell us why. Perhaps I can help with that, a new voice echoed through the archive. They turned to see High Counselor Xyrix materialize, her liquid starlight form more agitated than usual. We've decoded part of the Empress's final messages. She knew the houses of darkness were coming. That's why she chose you, Thomas. Because I'm unpredictable, he asked. Because you understand something the houses of darkness never could, Xyrix replied. The power of connection. Of bringing different perspectives together. Mira, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly shifted fully into their dimension. The convergence gate. That's what they're after. The other princesses stilled, their cosmic powers flickering with shock. But Thomas noticed something else, the way Xyrix's form briefly destabilized at the mention of the gate. Someone want to fill in the human? He asked mildly. The convergence gate is our greatest secret, Lyra explained, stars swirling in her eyes. A portal that can connect all realities, all possibilities. Our mother was its guardian. And now that power passes to her heir, Xyrix added meaningfully. Thomas leaned back, pieces clicking into place. That's why the houses of darkness retreated. They're not trying to conquer the Dominion, they want to seize control of every reality at once. Impossible, Rhea declared. The gate requires the combined power of all 4 royal houses to activate. Unless, Thomas said slowly, they could replicate the quantum signature of the stellar crown. A signature they now possess. Understanding dawned on the princesses' faces. Cora's eyes flared with dying starlight. They're going to try to force their way in. Not try, Mira corrected. They're already doing it. Look. The archive's walls shimmered as reality itself began to fracture. Through the cracks, they could see darkness seeping in, not the darkness of space, but something older, hungrier. We have to reach the gate first, Rhea insisted. Combined, our powers can seal it. That's exactly what they expect, Thomas countered. And exactly what your mother knew wouldn't work anymore. The old ways of pure power aren't enough. What are you suggesting? Lyra asked, though her expression suggested she already knew. Thomas stood, looking at each princess in turn. Your mother chose a human heir for a reason. Not to abandon the old ways, but to combine them with something new. Something even the houses of darkness couldn't predict. A convergence, Xyrix whispered. Not just of realities, but of species. Of ways of thinking. Precisely, Thomas smiled. The houses of darkness understand power. What they don't understand is adaptation. Evolution. The very things that humanity had to master to survive. And what happens, Cora asked carefully, when human chaos theory meets astral cosmic power? We're about to find out, Thomas replied as reality continued fracturing around them. That is, if you're willing to trust your mother's choice. To trust me. The 4 princesses exchanged looks, centuries of tradition and power weighing against the unprecedented changes before them. Finally, Lyra stepped forward, starlight trailing from her movements. Our mother was wise, she said softly. Perhaps wiser than we knew. What do you need us to do? The convergence gate loomed before them, a massive structure of impossible geometry that seemed to exist in all dimensions at once. Around it, reality shattered like broken glass as the houses of darkness forced their way through using the stolen quantum signature. Lord Void's laughter echoed across realities. How predictable. The princesses and their pet human, come to make their final stand. You still don't get it, do you? Thomas stepped forward, the stellar crown pulsing in his hands. Predictability is exactly what we're here to change. Around them, dark matter beings materialized by the thousands, their forms drinking in starlight. Behind Thomas, the 4 princesses took positions that had been used to defend the gate for millennia. Now, sisters. Lord Void commanded. While they follow the ancient patterns. But Thomas smiled. Lyra, the quantum resonance pattern we discussed. Rhea, your nebula burst, but through Myra's dimensional lens. Cora, prepare the stellar convergence. The princesses moved with perfect synchronization, but in ways their enemies had never seen. Lyra's constellation hair unwound into threads of pure probability. Rhea's nebulae skin exploded outward, but filtered through Myra's dimensional shifting, creating cascading waves of reality-bending energy. Cora's dying star eyes focused all of it into precise beams. Impossible. Lord Void roared. These aren't the ancient forms. That's humanity's gift to the universe, Thomas declared, raising the stellar crown. We don't just adapt, we help others adapt too. We see patterns, yes, but we also know when to break them. He threw the crown, not at the enemy this time, but into the heart of the princess's combined power. As it spun, Thomas pulled out the Empress's final message crystal, the one thing he'd kept hidden until now. The crystal shattered, releasing its true contents, a quantum key encoded with both human DNA and astral energy. The impossible combination of patterns that only a species that understood both chaos and order could create. The convergence gate blazed with new light as the princess's powers, filtered through human innovation, created something entirely new. Not a barrier against darkness, but a transformation of it. What are you doing? Lord Void's voice held fear for the first time in eons. This power, it's not possible. Wrong, Thomas said calmly. It's evolution. The very thing you fought against for so long. The Empress didn't choose me to maintain the old ways. She chose me to help the Dominion evolve. The gate's light touched the dark matter beings, not destroying them, but changing them. Where there was only hunger for power, new possibilities emerged. The houses of darkness found themselves experiencing something they'd forgotten millennia ago, choice. This is why Mother chose him, Lyra realized, stars swimming in her eyes. Not to win a war, but to end the very concept of it. Lord Void's form wavered between darkness and light. What have you done to us? Gave you what humanity learned long ago, Thomas replied. The power to change. To grow. To see beyond simple darkness and light. The transformation rippled through all realities touched by the gate. The houses of darkness didn't vanish, instead, they became something new. Something that could coexist with light rather than consuming it. As the cosmic energies settled, Thomas turned to find all four princesses watching him with new understanding. Rhea's nebulae skin glowed with possibilities. Cora's dying star eyes held new life. Myra's dimensional shifting had found stability. And Lyra. Lyra's constellation hair formed patterns he'd never seen before. The Dominion will never be the same, Xyrix observed, materializing beside them. That was the point, Thomas smiled. Your people have power beyond imagining, but power alone isn't enough. The universe needs both stability and change, tradition and innovation, cosmic might and human adaptability. And what now, heir of our mother? Lyra asked softly. How does a human rule the astral dominion? I don't, Thomas said simply. We all do. Together. That's humanity's greatest strength, not ruling, but cooperating. Growing together. After all, he grinned, someone has to keep introducing chaos into your perfect cosmic order. The princesses laughed, the sound like music across dimensions. Above them, the convergence gate pulsed with new light, reflecting not just what was or what had been, but all the infinite possibilities of what could be. In the depths of space, on a small blue planet, rain still fell on the Geneva night. But now it sparkled with starlight that held both human chaos and astral power, the first drops of a new age of evolution for all species.